also like to introduce another guest joining us today, particularly for people who are joining us here live in the MPH. You'll be able to see Emma Connors. She's a correspondent with the Australian Financial Review, and Emma wrote an article about the UWC Mostar team, which was published on the front page of the newspaper just a few weeks ago. You'll be able to read the full article in your next session. Lola's a UWC SEA and a UWC Mostar alumna. Lola started at UWC SEA in 2009 as a grade 1 student. She joined with her two big sisters, Olivia and Lily Rose. Lola and her family were involved in very different service trips, Bali Bridges, the family house building trips over many years. Lola completed her IB at UWC Mostar in Bosnia-Herzegovina, and she graduated in May just this year. UWC Bosnia is a grade 11 and grade 12 campus only. The students all live together and they learn together. They become very much a family. So when one of their UWC Mostar friends needs support, they respond. And this was certainly the case for their friend Haseen, who was living in Kabul, Afghanistan, as the Taliban took hold only a few weeks ago. Lola, thanks so much for coming in today and to share your story of a remarkable group of UWC graduates. Grade 8s, please welcome Lola Sweeney.
Hi everyone, and thank you, Ms. Edwards, for inviting me to come back to UWC SEA today to share Haseen and her family's escape story from Afghanistan with the help of her 6 UWC peers, 5 of which who couldn't be here today. Before we start, I just want to introduce myself to all of you. As you know, my name is Lola. I attended UWC SEA from grade 1 through till 7, and then later attended UWC Mostar for my final 2 years in Bosnia and Herzegovina. I never imagined I'd actually be up here today in UWC SEA after all these years after leaving. So thank you for inviting me and listening to my story, and I'm extremely honored to be able to share it. Being invited here today to share a story of hope with you, I thought I'd better reflect on this story and what it really taught me about the UWC education that you don't tend to see when you look at someone's grades. When we look at this story since it's happened, it feels like it's taught us 5 lessons. Be curious. Be more confident with making mistakes. You need to never apologize to anyone if your intentions are always good. Keep trying, even when things seem to go wrong. It helps to build resilience. In the case of this story, a lot of things went wrong. We came to a lot of dead ends. We met a lot of rejection, but the perseverance to continue and the determination is what kept us all going as a team. That leads me to my 3rd point. Dig deep. Grit and determination is not always fun. Tell yourself in moments where you're scared that the moments will likely pass. 4, be aware, especially of your emotions. Don't be alone. Always tell someone how you're feeling, and feeling first before you talk about the issues on your mind. Again, in the case of Haseen's story, as a team of 5, we needed to speak about a lot of things that were going on in the 11 days that we tried to get her out of Kabul, and then obviously in the end succeeded. A lot of emotions, a lot of stress, a lot of anxiety, but continuing to speak to one another and support one another through hard times and hard moments is what kept us going in the end. And 5, finally, Kurt Hahn's favorite, show compassion. Put yourself in someone else's shoes. It will help you to work more effectively with your friends as a team. Although the situation is extremely dire, and obviously we couldn't always put ourselves in the exact shoes of Haseen, attempting to understand what was going on at the ground and attempting to understand her situation allowed for us to come together as a team to work to get her out. And on that note, I'd like to say thank you again for allowing me to speak and have my few minutes, and to now share Haseen's story, the actual escape, told by Haseen and my other peers, with real photos and videos that Haseen took while she was there in Kabul, Afghanistan. Thank you. I'm just going to share my screen. Present now. Okay.
The Kabul airport is the only safe way out of Afghanistan, and today there was nearly a riot. Afghans who could get visas rushed to foreign countries. For the United States, the airport is the staging ground to evacuate U.S. Embassy personnel. Helicopters and airplanes circled over Kabul, shuttling between the embassy where sensitive documents were burned, and the airport as the Taliban closed in.
Friday the 13th. It all began with a short message. Haseen, how are you? And from that moment on, our non-stop efforts to help our Afghani friend in danger kept on for the following 10 days. As soon as I got to know about her, I went directly to my family and called my country's embassy in Kabul. They just told us about some evacuation flights going on just for employees of the embassy. And that told us that there were almost no chances of getting her to safety out of Afghanistan. Saturday the 14th. The situation in Afghanistan was deteriorating by the minute. Kabul was hours away from falling into the hands of the Taliban. An alumna of United World College in Mostar, Bosnia and Herzegovina, reached out to her long-time friends who studied with her in Mostar, asking for help during this all-encompassing chaos. Women, in particular Hazaras, had been targeted by the Taliban in the past, and there was no reason to think this time would be any different. Born into the Hazara minority, identifying herself as a Shia Muslim, she's a prominent women's rights activist who was volunteering for the US Embassy in Kabul and attended United World College in Mostar, and publicly criticized the Taliban. Her friends were quick to set up a fundraiser, gathering money for airplane tickets out of the still functioning Kabul airport. Sunday the 15th. In only 24 hours, with the support of a United World College network of current students, alumni, and teachers from all over the world, the crowdfunding reached its €3,000 goal. By early Sunday morning, tickets were purchased for her and one of her brothers to get the earliest flight connecting Kabul with Dubai and then Islamabad in Pakistan. Without a valid Pakistani visa, it was not possible to get hold of tickets for her youngest brother, nor for the mother whose passport had expired in 2019. She had only $200 left, unable to withdraw money, but this time was different and pressing like on her to get out of it. She went on a taxi ride to the airport and around 11 a.m. and drove around 30 kilometers to get there. Minutes before reaching its gates, she sees some people seeming like Taliban taking selfies and already celebrating their victory. No media was aware of what was going on, and she was the first one to see how Taliban were already in the city. Some hours later, Al Jazeera confirmed the worst. They were already inside the capital. She just told the taxi to go on and was stopped by US police and soldiers 100 meters before getting into the airport entrance. You cannot continue. This airport is reserved for evacuation for foreigners only. If you don't hold a passport, you cannot go out. Even if she had these plane tickets, the US soldiers would not let her out. We know, but we cannot let you in. That's what she got at the end. And even if she could try to get into the airport, there was no chance of her managing to it. She had to turn around.
When Haseen saw the director of the airport being denied access to the perimeter, she knew there was no way of getting out of Kabul that day and decided going home was the safest option. But we had seen on the news that Taliban were setting up checkpoints all over the city, so her family slept at her uncle's place, only a few minutes away from the runway. When the plane tickets were cancelled, we realized there was no civilian flights leaving Kabul in sight. Not a single company was flying inside the Afghanistan airspace. The only remaining path to escape would be military planes sent to evacuate Western diplomats. We knew that a high-profile connection would now be needed to put her on the list of one of the countries evacuating their personnel and Afghani allies.
Day 16th of August. That day, at 5 a.m., we received a letter from a very high-ranking French official ordering the immediate evacuation of Haseen and her family and he confirms that he is on the French list. At the same time, also in the morning, the US and the Canadian officials, both in the ground in Kabul and in the US and Canada, know about her case. And Haseen tells us, I think they are letting civilians into Europe. We check with different media, especially Al Jazeera, and we see it's the case. So we decide to tell her, look, go to the airport, go with your family. Maybe, and that was also something that was very, very, very difficult, your family, they won't let them in because they were lacking documents, they didn't have visas, and we fought a lot for Haseen to get out, but it was way more difficult to ask an official to put not only Haseen, but her core family members. So that was really tense. She arrives to the airport and the situation is completely different. It's not anymore the airport surrounded by US soldiers and you have to show a plane ticket or documents to enter. It's a Taliban filter surrounding all the airport. Then the US soldiers, and after the US soldiers, there's Europe. And so Taliban don't let people in. They're shooting in the air, they're shooting towards the sky to scare people and to avoid basically their intellectuals, their people from the capital that later would be useful for them to escape. Haseen stays there. It's, I think, already 8 a.m. And suddenly there's a breach in the Taliban filter, and she runs through it, and she makes it between the Taliban filter and the US soldiers in an area that was called the Green Zone. But to make it to US soldiers and to show them the French letter, to tell them she's on the list, it takes her, I think, 10 hours under the heat, without almost no battery in her phone, because there were thousands of people in between the Taliban and the US soldiers. And finally, she's able to make it to the US soldiers, and they tell her, she shows the letter, and they tell her, look, we know it's not enough. You have to show us an official document that says you're on the French list. You cannot just tell us you're on the French list. And the problem is, the French, as well as the US and Canada, didn't evacuate at that time their own people. So it was impossible for them to send us an official document telling, look, Haseen is on the list, because they couldn't. Even if they put her on the list, they couldn't confirm it to us. So Haseen, even though they say she's not there, she waits. She waits because it was really hard to make it to the US soldiers. And so Poland, Germany, the Dutch call the people on their lists. She's not there. And then suddenly, the Taliban that were shooting towards the sky start shooting towards people. A human stampede follows. She sees terrible things, and we tell her, look, come back to your house. And so that's how Monday ends, you know. We started with high expectations, and it's a sad end.
Tuesday 17th. Tuesday is again filled with emails, phone calls, visa applications, and more phone calls. In the afternoon, however, we get the first encouraging news. A Spanish member of the European Parliament who has been fighting terrorism for ages and has been helping out its victims called us around lunchtime, convinced that Spain could actually manage to fly Haseen out of Kabul. The Spanish ambassador stands that he will remain in Afghanistan until all the people on the Spanish list are evacuated, gives us a surge of hope and strength to continue fighting for our friend and her family. Wednesday 18th. It's now Wednesday. We've been sleeping in shifts in order to be awake in case Haseen calls or any further advancements from our contacts we've been speaking to are made. Finally, we get the first really good news of the week. The Spanish Ministry of Defense has given the go-ahead for the evacuation, and also the Ministry of Foreign Affairs has given its approval. Thanks to the reactivity of Spain, less than 12 hours after contacting them, Haseen is assured that she will receive an email enabling her to take off from Kabul. Thursday 19th. We continue to work on all of our options and also their potential outcomes, even considering the possibility of evacuating Haseen and her family by car through the Pakistani border. However, upon finding out that the Taliban have actually taken over all the borders, we find ourselves back to square one. Despite the good news from Spain, she is now back at home, and she's also miles away from the airport. The situation actually worsens by the minute as the Taliban take over daily life and the prices for basic necessities skyrocket. We attempt to send her money, but all transfers are now blocked, and at night she sends us a message telling us that she's going to bed on an empty stomach.
On Sunday, August the 22nd, we receive an email from the Spanish government. They're instructing Haseen and her family to make it to the Abbey Gate checkpoint, the Baron Hotel situated right next to the airport. They're told to come wearing red and yellow scarves, to shout Espanol and close to Spanish soldiers, as that way they will be recognized. Within minutes, we also receive an email from our US contact, which confirms that Haseen's evacuation plans are underway, but he cannot give us the exact time of when the US soldiers will be able to pick Haseen up from her home. We're also skeptic that will be possible at all, since the US soldiers have not yet been given clearance to leave the premises of the Kabul airport. We sit back and wait as the situation in Kabul takes a turn for the worse every hour. We as a group then finally decide that Haseen and her family should attempt to make their way to the airport for the third time. This will be the last time it is possible, because after that, they will be out of money for cabs. It's their last chance at escaping, truly. They arrive to the airport at 11 a.m. and only 12 hours later, Haseen is able to give us a clear brief on the situation on the ground. There are 3 filters set up in perimeters around the airport. First filter is controlled by the Taliban. Filter B is controlled by ISIS-K, terrorist organization. And filter C is controlled by the US soldiers. At 1 a.m., Haseen messages us that she has made it through filter A, the Taliban checkpoint, that is. 2 hours later, approximately, she is expecting to face filter B, ISIS-K. Tonight continues to be chaotic. None of us is really able to sleep as we await news from Haseen. She texts us in secret, explaining us that Taliban are beating people around her and are drinking. Yes, drinking. She cannot answer our calls because Taliban consider anyone speaking English to be too important to leave. Her fears grow as she faces extreme violence from ISIS-K members around her. We ask her to be careful and avoid texting us once again. At 3 a.m., she finally informs us that she has made it past the ISIS-K checkpoint and is now waiting in line to be let through the final US Army checkpoint. As she makes it to checkpoint C, she presents US Army officers with an email from the Spanish government and the email from our US contact. That is sufficient for them to let her through, and she finally makes it to the airport. Her and her family are now safe. She informs us of that, and we have a group call at 4 a.m. in the morning in Europe. We share a few tears of joy and laughter, and then we're finally able to fall asleep.
We wake up to a picture showing that Haseen and her family have been given a green bracelet around their arm. This is the ticket for an evacuation plane on that same day to the military base of Torrejón de Ardoz in Spain. Once again, we all share a moment of pure joy and relief as we wait for Haseen to board her flight. After what is only hours, but feels like years, we finally receive a photo of her and her family on the plane, on their way to a new life. This moment of relief is bittered by the sadness of knowing that Haseen, although flying safely with her family, will have to leave behind her home, friends, and life in Afghanistan. Haseen and her family are now safe in Spain. The Spanish government cannot be thanked more for the efficiency and determination crucial in saving Haseen, as well as the US political officer on the ground in Kabul who helped and guided her in the middle of the chaos. Without the continuous support, time, and generosity of everyone, this ending would never have been possible. An enormous thank you to all the people sensitive to this story that donated and encouraged us every day.
Everyone, it's 20 September 2021, and here this is me, Haseen Fatima Amini from Madrid, Spain. My warm greetings to each and everyone who is watching us. And today I would like to tell you in short about my education period from journey from Afghanistan to Madrid, Spain. I wanted to first think about all my UWC community who have been working hard to in education period or fundraising or their every kind of support. So I'm highly thankful to each and everyone in UWC community, especially the parents, teachers, students, everyone, especially the 6 students, my friends who helped me 24 hours contacting me with instructions to guide. On the same way, how about my experience in short, I would like to say that we were going through a very dark moment that we never knew what's going to happen next. We never knew what's the situation. But basically, we always had a belief, we had a hope that at the end of the tunnel there is going to be a light. So with hope of that light, we struggled a lot. I was someone like working as a alumni student for US Embassy, and I was always raising the campaign of girls' rights for education. But after this situation, I couldn't like continue my education anymore. Right now, I'm planning to rejoin my UWC, and I'm studying UWC person at Canada. And then after passing this mission, I'm looking forward to continue my studies in university and so on. I have a very big vision, but after passing this mission, and what I hope is in future, I become a very great leader for Afghanistan. And I'm struggling a lot to work hard and give back to my country. I want to serve the nation by serving the education.
Lola, thank you so much for organising for all your friends to share that extraordinary story. I'm reminded of actually the power of youth, because I don't think that adults perhaps would have had that tenacity, the connection of technology, of young people being all around the world 24/7, you know, really working for Haseen and her family. I'm also reminded of the starfish story, which I think is quite familiar, of all of those starfish on the beach, and that young person picks up one starfish, throws it into the water and says it will make a difference with this one starfish. So I'm reminded very much of that. Very grateful that you could be here today to share the story. I know that we've got a couple of questions, so I think we'll head to the question time. Patricia, would you like to start? Okay, great. Yeah, for sure.
First of all, I would just like to know, what was the probably most stressful time of your of this adventure of yours? What was the hardest part where, like, yeah, you were most stressed?
I think the hardest part was probably halfway through, probably 5 days in, when we were really coming to a dead end with a lot of things. You know, we'd already been rejected by the French, the US and Canada, you know, they weren't working out. And we were really, you know, our options were going a little thin with the alumni messages we were getting from people, with, you know, help from them and help from students and parents. So I think 5 days in, it became really stressful. And I think at some point we all just kind of had a group call to really talk about how we were feeling, because I felt that we all felt really stressed, you know. And at some points, I'm sure some of us did think, well, you know, maybe it's not possible for us as students to get these people out, you know, maybe it's not. I think it was also stressful midway through, because originally her whole family was unable to actually go. Her mother and her 3-year-old brother did not have valid passports or visas to be able to fly. So it was also knowing 5 days in that Haseen would have had to have left her family and only traveled with her 17-year-old brother to safety. So I think that we were really, you know, at our wits' end 5 days in. It really took a lot to persevere and push through for the next 5.
And my other question is, what put this burden on you? Like, there are hundreds of kids in Mostar, in all of UWC community.
Yeah.
And what put this challenge to help her on you and your 5 other friends?
So all of us individually came together, I think, after one of our members, his name was Pablo, had been contacting Haseen, and he'd started a GoFundMe, as you'd seen in the video from Lecce. And I think individually, all 5 of us began to contact Pablo, and we all kind of said, hey, we can help with donations. Or I contacted and said I had a few people that I knew that could possibly come and help to get her out. I don't think it was a matter of, I don't think I really fully understood at the beginning what I was getting into or who I was about to help or what I was about to do. I think it was just a spur in the moment. Like, I know these people, this is where I can help, and just going for it, you know, taking a risk at being a part of something that's so amazing and being able to be a part of someone else's story of helping them escape. So I think, yeah, that's basically how I got involved. I messaged, and it was just after one message that it all took off after that. Yeah.
You were just prepared to jump in.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't think about anything, any of the after effects of it. I just went straight for it.
You were needed and you responded.
Yeah.
Patricia.
So first of all, I think what you and your friends have done for Miss Amini is amazing. It must have been very, very challenging. So I noticed how Miss Amini said, "I've always wondered what I can do to help the women and children left behind, especially them."
Mm-hmm.
So my first question is, what can we do to help?
Well, Haseen is a women's rights activist. She has been for years. She worked with the US after she left UWC Mostar. In regards to what people can do to help the current people stuck in Afghanistan, I'm aware that UWC as a whole started a Youth Afghan donation fund to allow for people to help to donate, to go towards educational benefits, to go towards helping people to escape. I think being able to be a part of that and donate, whether it's only a little bit amount of money, you know, it makes a difference. It really does. And yeah, I think Haseen is a very outspoken, powerful individual, and she really, you know, she has a lot of determination with her situation to be able to want to, you know, help the other people there in Afghanistan, and I think that's amazing. But yeah, in terms of what, you know, people can do now, it's to donate, to be a part of something as a UWC community, to be able to help in any way possible, you know. No effort is too little. And I think that's what Pablo used to say, is that no matter how much effort you put in, even if it was just a little text or a little message or a little donation, it goes a long way, and it really does. Yeah.
So I have another question.
No worries.
I know Loki said something about, like, I think he was talking about the entire group and the challenges.
Yeah.
But personally to you, what was the most challenging part?
I think the most challenging part for me was given that the other individuals are all from Europe, during their sleeping times, I would be the only one who was awake to be available for Haseen. And I think what became most stressful for me was that sometimes I didn't have the answers or the positive response that maybe Haseen might have been looking for. She, you know, she'd call me, I'd be out maybe doing something, she'd call me and she'd tell me, you know, is there any good news? Am I going on an evacuation plane? And it would be quite heartbreaking to have to tell her, you know, no, we haven't heard anything yet, or the response has been no, there's been rejection, there's been a setback. I think that was probably the most difficult part for me, is knowing that I was pretty much alone in those moments to have to answer her questions, or, you know, I'd have to run to the embassy, because I think I ran to a few embassies, you know, pretty much at their doorstep going, could you help me? You know, I have a friend. And so I think that was the most difficult, not being able to lean on people's shoulders in a sense when they'd all be asleep. So yeah, I probably found that quite hard.
And finally, how is Miss Amini and her family now?
They're doing great. They're in Madrid, Spain at the moment. She's going through a visa process. We actually started 2 teams now that Haseen has gone to Madrid. We have one team, which is the lawyer team. There are Adrian, who is a helper with UWC Mostar, has been a part of. So we have 3 lawyers in Spain, and we have 1 lawyer in Canada helping. And then we have her humanitarian team, which I've had the pleasure of actually taking on. And her humanitarian team focuses on her aid, her mental health, setting up appointments and visits with people and lawyers and all of that. But she's doing great. She's really enjoying Spain. It's still quite heartbreaking having to know she's left her home and she's left everything she's known, all of her friends, everything like that. But I think it's a sense of relief that she's been able to do so with her family. But she's doing good, yeah.
Thank you.
No worries.
Sorry, I just want to ask one more question.
Sure.
How did this experience affect you personally, like your life, your family, your studies, and your...
I'm currently on a gap year, so I've had a lot of free time to be able to help out with Haseen, which is why I took on the humanitarian role, simply because my other people in the group do have university and studies. It's affected me in a sense, in a positive way. You know, I've had the pleasure of now friending Haseen, and I'm hoping to go actually see her when I have the chance to do so in Spain before she goes. It's bonded me with some UWC Mostar members who previously, you know, we were all acquainted, but we weren't in the same friendship groups in a sense. So this whole situation has really allowed for me to meet some inspirational young individuals who aspire to do amazing things. And it's affected in a positive way. You know, it's really brought some positive things into my life. It's allowed for me to meet amazing people, and it's allowed for me to know that no matter, you know, what your grades say in school, or no matter what happens in school, you can still achieve big things. You know, you can still go out there and do some amazing things. You know, grades are not always a determination of what your ability is. So, yeah.
And also, we've heard what's next for Haseen, but what is next for you? What do you see in your future now?
Well, in light of this whole situation, I've actually come to find I'd like to go down a political route in terms of university. So I'm hoping to maybe next year apply to do an international relations and political sciences degree in uni. And I guess that's what's next for me. And in terms of right now, it's just helping Haseen get through and get to Canada to be able to continue education. So that's my goal, yeah.
Thank you so much.
No worries.
I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
If you were to do it all over again for like someone else, would you do it? And what do you think you could change to make it better?
I think I would 100% do it again, only because I think, you know, with the UWC values and everything that UWC has taught me is to always just go for it. You know, if there's a chance to help someone, do it, you know, be a part of it. And no matter the stress, no matter the tense situations that I went through with Haseen, I would do it all over again if it meant helping someone else get out. Sorry, I forgot the last part. What was the other part of the question?
What would you do to make it better?
What would I do differently? I think that I'm not sure I'd do anything differently to what we originally did. I think it's because I think it would have to go through the same process in a sense. We'd have to look for someone who was of a higher stance to be able to help us out. In terms of maybe, I don't think we'd do anything differently. I think, you know, in terms of what we did, I'm not sure how we managed, but we did in the end, and I think that it's just an amazing thing to be a part of. So I think, yeah, I would probably go through the same process again. I'm sure maybe we would know that we needed documents in order to get her onto a plane, given that we did send her originally to the airport with just, you know, her voice and her words of being on the French list. So I'm sure we would be making sure she had documents to go, but apart from that, no, I don't think we changed a lot about what we did. Oh. Come on up.
So I'd like to state first of all that what you and your friends have done is absolutely fantastic. And I want to ask, what is the most frustrating thing about the situation in Afghanistan right now, the whole Taliban takeover?
I think the most frustrating thing is that people don't have the chance to be so openly spoken in Afghanistan at the moment. You know, we know of Haseen's friends obviously being back in Afghanistan, having not had the chance to escape, are no longer allowed to speak English, are no longer allowed to continue education, cannot continue to go to university. You know, they're really restricted on their rights. And a lot of them live in fear. It's very frustrating in a sense where, you know, people can't live their lives the way that, you know, we live our lives in Singapore, you know, in a sense. They can't even openly say that they've worked with the US. They can't say they've worked with English-speaking people because they're at threat, you know? They're at a lot of dangers of doing so. So I think the most frustrating thing is knowing that people can't be so openly spoken about their freedom, about their rights, without the repercussions of being hurt or harmed.
Thank you.
No worries. Oh.
So I just wanted to ask a question myself, if that's okay.
No worries.
It's a bit short for me. One of the things we're doing in grade 8 at the moment, we're looking at character strengths. It sounds like you and your friends really demonstrated some grit and determination process. And it sounds to me that having that group of individuals really gave you strength at times.
Yeah.
And the individual, when you're by yourself, you had the ability to draw on others. And that really came through for me. It sounded to me that you had a period in your life where, as a group of people, you really gave. And sort of what we do at school quite often through the services, you try and help people a lot. And I know it's all sort of recent, but I'm wondering if you've had an opportunity to sit back and have some personal reflection and sort of reflect on what you've done and how that might have helped you grow as an individual, your character, your development. And when you are confronted with challenges in the future, what are the benefits of going through something so difficult and challenging and the ups and downs and so on? In your reflection, how does that help you grow as an individual, as a person coming forward? And when you are confronted with challenges in the future, do you think you'll draw on that?
I think it's built a lot of confidence in me. In school per se, I haven't necessarily always been the most confident individual, and I did go through a lot of school struggles academically. But I think that it built a lot of confidence, having the confidence to email and call these officials, government officials, that I don't think I would have ever seen myself doing in a million years. And I think that we did sit back as a group, actually, and did a reflection all together of how the experience made us feel. And from that, we wrote about the story, which they pick and chose what part they wanted to talk about in the video. And we really reflected on all the things we'd done as a team and a group. And I think we did it more as a group reflection than a self-reflection. I think I haven't had necessarily the chance yet to sit back and really, truly think about what I've done, because there's been so much going on since. But I really do think it drew a lot of confidence from me. And I think in the future, being able to just go in and do it, be a part of something, be a part of, future events or projects that come up, I think it's brought out that kind of side of me, because I really jumped into this situation not necessarily thinking about all of the events that were going to come. And I think because of that, it's really brought out confidence. So I would say confidence is the most, yeah.
Thank you very much. We quite often talk about the journey.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a cliche word at times, but it's great to see someone who's gone through that.
Yeah.
It's grown and developed, and I think it's great that you can share that with people as well. So very inspirational. Well done.
Thank you. Thank you.
It is indeed inspirational, and I know we're sort of speaking from the same page of the UWC hymn book, but looking at everybody connect today, Lola, you speaking so confidently and particularly connected and passionate about your UWC experience. It really has brought it home, and we're very grateful for you to come here on UWC Day, where you have been an advocate for peace and a sustainable future. Very much our mission. So thanks a million, Lola. Thanks a million. And with that, I'm sure that everybody out on the screen is going to head off to break. Thanks again, Lola. And from our group too, we'll be able to head out to break, unless, of course, you'd like a question that you might like to ask Lola later on. Thanks again.
Of course.